Hello and welcome to the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. Whether you can't get out of bed in the morning, your energy crashes throughout the day, or you're a biohacker looking to optimize your energy, productivity, and focus, this podcast is for you. I am Dr. Evan Hirsch, and I will be your host on your journey to resolving fatigue and optimizing your energy. And we'll be interviewing some of the top leaders in the world on fatigue resolution. Welcome. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. I'm so happy that you're here joining me. And today we have my good friend, Dr. Madiha Saeed. And so Dr. Saeed is a practicing board-certified family physician in Naperville and a traditionally published author of a best-selling book, The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease, and best-selling children's book, Adam's Healing Adventures, one of Dr. Mark Hyman's favorite picks and mine. I got it right here. Dr. Saeed is a mother of 4 holistically raised boys who also educate the world. They've got their own podcast, which is super cool. On social media, she's known as the Holistic Mom MD and is the Director of Education on Documenting Hope, which is a national organization dedicated to healing chronic disease in children. She writes for Holistic Primary Care and is on the medical advisory board for Mama Potamus and Wellness Mama, who was named one of the most influential people in health and wellness and has one of the largest wellness blogs. She won the Up and Comer Award at the Mindshare Summit. Yep, she did. She's on the board of Nagamia Institute of Islamic Medicine and Sciences, where she speaks to physicians all over the world. Her boys have started the popular podcast called The Holistic Kids Show. She speaks internationally, igniting the world with her energy and passion. You'll see the kind of energy she's got. It's amazing. To ignite a healing revolution. She has appeared in numerous prestigious holistic online summits, conferences, even Dr. Terry Wall's conference, Academy of Integrated Health and Medicine, radio, and newspaper. She is a regular on the international Emmy-winning medical talk show, The Dr. Nandi Show, airing on 7 networks in 95 million homes in the US and over 80 countries. The Dean Show, over 5.6 million followers on Facebook. And My Halal Kitchen, with over 1.2 million followers alone on Facebook. She has been a keynote speaker for MAS-ICNA convention in December 2018 with an audience of 12,000 at McCormick Place, Chicago. She has direct connections with the UN and has been asked to speak to an audience of 40,000 at the UN. She continues to speak worldwide, igniting the world with her passion. With her 4 boys, Abdullah, Zain, Ahmad, and Qasim, Dr. Saeed exemplifies the holistic healing model for a happy and healthy life. She loves to walk alongside her patients, being their cheerleader along the way toward optimal health. She gives others hope that if she can do it with a busy lifestyle, anyone can. Dr. Madiha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a huge honor. I'm so excited to do this interview with you today. Yay!
And I just love your bio. I mean, you've done so many wonderful things, and you're so young. I mean, look at you. You're like, how could this woman be a mother of 4? So let's dive in here. So let's talk about your passion here, and let's talk about specifically moms and fatigue. I think this is going to be a really important topic. So let's start with your story. So what brought you to wanting to heal others in this way?
Absolutely. You know, I was born, raised in Naperville, Illinois. I had all the same bad habits that have led most children and adults down the road to chronic illness. My mom used food as love, right? Even though she's an amazing cook, but all of our food was processed because that's what kids like, you know, at that time. And even now, but you know, we had an entire basement filled with cereals of every kind, and every day we would take an entire, you know, cans of Coke to school, and maybe multiple, just because we thought we were cool. So I grew up in that type of lifestyle, and it continued. You know, I had one symptom, and then another, and another, and then I didn't really come to a head until residency. And so my baby daddy slash husband, so he's also a family physician. And I have all my siblings are physicians. And so, but it really, all my symptoms of lupus, Hashimoto's, digestive issues, chronic fatigue, where I couldn't even lift a finger. And I'm like, I know I have all this energy in my body. Like, I just felt like I was trapped in this body. And even despite being a resident, everybody, I went to doctor, trying to figure out what I could do to get all this energy back. And they just told me, oh, you're a new mom, a new wife, a new resident all at the same time, which yes, it can. Both me and my husband are working 80-hour work weeks, but I'm like, even after a good day's rest, I'm still exhausted. Like I can't even just lift a finger, was just exhausting. And even at that time, I was sort of diagnosed as chronic fatigue syndrome because of joint pain and all these rashes. And I was like, all these crazy things all these things that doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with me. To the point I even had shingles in residency. Wow. That's how my body was totally falling apart. And I continued on the hamster wheel. And I continued because that's where everybody just told me, oh, that's just stress. It's just you. It's my new normal. And I continued on that hamster wheel until one day it came to a screeching halt. And at this time, my son, my oldest, who is now 13 yesterday, was 10 months old. And I walked into the daycare. It was like a huge blessing because I was like, oh, yay, there's a daycare that's right across. It was attached to the hospital. And I can go nurse, and then I can go still be on OB call. So I was still doing all of this. I was still trying to juggle it all. And, but my husband's like, can you go check up on our child right after noon conference? And I was chit-chatting like I normally do. And I was like, there's nothing going on with him. But just to appease him, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and check up on our 10-month-old. That's when my nightmare unfolded. And I walked in to my 10-month-old being suffocated to death, almost. Like he was basically in a rocker, arms and legs were tied down in a receiving blanket. And he was, the daycare provider was rocking back and forth in a dimmed room. Like seriously, couldn't get any scarier. And eyes bloodshot, face was swollen. I could barely get it off because it was tied so tightly around his face. And I'm like, you could have killed my child. And I ran out. And that day I'm like, God, universe, you saved my child. I promise I'm going to take care of these kids the best that I know how. But how can I take care of these kids best than I know how? But as a family physician, I myself am falling apart. And that's when I was like, there has to be a different way. I'm not going to let, with my autoimmune antibodies, but 1/380 and joint pain and all of these basically diagnosed with lupus. And I know how this ends. You've seen patients where, it's a scary disease. And I'm like, I'm not going to let this take my life. Right. I got to do something that's going to help me take charge of my overall health and well-being today. And that is when, right after residency, I joined this medical practice where under one roof, there's me, an OBGYN, an internist, an exercise physiologist, nutritionist, counseling, chiropractor, massage therapy, all brought together for the complete healing of the whole person. And that's when it blew my mind because I'm like, wait, you can actually look at a person as a whole person, not just compartmentalize it that we've been doing. And that's when my first patient was a 31-year-old with 9 autoimmune diseases. Myasthenia gravis, psoriasis, lichen planus, Sjogren's, Hashimoto's, and the list goes on. And in 1 month, 50% resolution. And then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try it on myself. Yeah. And I realized all of these, and then just in a couple months, weeks actually, all my fatigue resolved once I was able to implement all this stuff on myself. And since then I'm like, everybody needs to know about this. This is so cool. And why aren't we teaching? And that's when I started the Holistic Mom MD, because as I was learning on this journey, because as a family physician, if this is difficult for me to figure out where I'm going to start and what I'm going to do and how am I going to get this, is like a totally different world out there outside of medicine. And what was so crazy was that it was so super easy. And just by educating my family and myself with these easy, fast, cost-effective lifestyle tips that I can do with a growing family, anybody can do it. And that's what I've noticed with my patients over and over. I think we make medicine, specifically functional medicine, really complicated, and it doesn't have to be. Right. And especially for a mom, I mean, right now I'm juggling all these things. Plus on top of that, I take care of a family of 8 on a daily basis because I have 4 children, and my husband is the 5th child. And then we have my in-laws that live, my in-laws also live with me. So it's taking care of a family of 8 on a daily basis. Can you imagine if and then thinking about adding some of these, where to start, it gets overwhelming for moms. And sometimes it's just easier just to ignore and continue on that hamster wheel. And that's what I wanted to really bring out to the world, that we can change that dynamic. It can be super easy. You can incorporate into your routine, and you're going to have more energy, feel fabulous, and be able to do your job 10 times better once we take care of ourselves and incorporate these easy lifestyle tips.
I love it. Thank you
That's
for
my
sharing.
passion.
Yeah. So let's talk about your fatigue. So what do you feel like was the most helpful thing that you did to resolve your fatigue?
Well, and it was so crazy because I really feel, I mean, as a covered woman, and then I was indoors all the time. South Bend, Indiana doesn't even have any, we didn't go outside. It was really dark outside. It was always cold where I did residency. And I know that, and plus, remember, a lot of it was, I was eating free food at the cafeteria. So as a resident, now me and my husband are working 80-hour work weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And now with a newborn. So you know how well our sleep was.
Right.
And then in residency, you're not sleeping as well anyway, especially on those call months. And then now we have free food at the cafeteria. Oh, fun. Guess what I was eating? Ben & Jerry's every day. Like, who wouldn't? What? Nutrition has nothing to do with how you feel. Right. So I was eating Ben & Jerry's, and then, those hot pizzas that came out of the oven every day, and then they had a wood oven. And then, the lack of sleep, high stress, because just trying to keep people alive and you keep your child alive. And then a new marriage, so again, high stress, sleep, social, everybody was telling you what you're doing wrong and how you're gonna mess up, right? In residency, the culture was very toxic. Mm-hmm. And then, you have attendings telling you you're doing wrong all the time, and then residents and then nurses. So it's a very toxic, and it can become a very stressful environment. And then not eating well, and obviously dumping sanitizer, every patient that you see, living in the hospital, which is not we totally sanitize everything, including, our gut microbiome. So it's just, I think all of that together combined was the storm that I needed. I mean, then it was like fatigue, and then shingles, to the point where, I had, even though I was a 20-year-old, I had a body of an 80-year-old. Mm-hmm. So once I recognized those pieces, I literally went to everybody. I'm like, okay, I need to start off with my stress. And, but we had a psychologist on staff. He was like, yeah, there's some YouTube videos you can start watching. And I know that for me specifically, that when I started looking into, okay, how can I manage this stress? Doctors, as physicians, we were never taught how to manage stress. And that's what's crazy. And even at this practice, and then we had DOs working for us. Everybody, so they were a little bit more holistic, but nobody knew how to manage stress. So just by incorporating those stress management techniques, starting to change some of my dietary habits, but mostly really supplementing with some supplements, specifically vitamin D. And I had to beg somebody to check my vitamin D, they're like, no, you don't need it. It's not evidence-based. I'm like, can you just check it? And so I had to convince actually my husband. I'm like, can you please just check my labs? I don't care what it is. We got to figure out a way to check it. And my level was 5. Whoa. And I was like, and I lived with years trying to figure out what I could do. And then at that time I was rotating with rheumatologists, and I would be like, what can I do? And I would see rheumatologists, and nobody ever thought at that time, can you seriously just check my deficiencies? So just these simple lifestyle tips that I did, and then just fixing simple deficiencies, for me, that was enough to clear some of the fog, and really able to then take the next step forward. Because otherwise I was like, I can't, you really want me to do what now? So I couldn't even lift a finger, and it was really exhausting.
Excellent.
So that's what I did. That's what I did to start. And then it just continued to build from there.
And so what do you find was the best diet for you?
So that's where, for me, When I so when with my Annie, with now doing this entire full panel, I saw that for me, I needed to get off of grains and dairy and sugar and processed foods completely. And so I live more of a, and even now I sort of live a keto green type lifestyle where it's basically tons of vegetables, clean, for some clean protein, healthy fats, and then intermittent fasting. That's what I needed to do. I mean, for me, to really balance, because a lot of my, so every person, I mean, every person in my family also has a severe insulin resistance. And to the point where I'm like the thinnest in my entire family. And this is, you know, and then everybody else is very obese. All my people that have died at really young ages in their 40s. Actually, my uncle died at the age of 27 with a heart attack.
Wow.
So that's how you know that we have huge diabetes, blood pressure, insulin resistance family on both sides of the family. And I know that was another piece of my puzzle with all the stress and the deficiencies, and then the food that I was eating, then the insulin resistance. It was also causing a problem for my fatigue. And so once I was able to get to more of a diet that one could help me lower my insulin levels, and then balance on and adding the supplements, and then focusing on foods that would help enrich the gut bacteria. Because remember, my ANA levels were also elevated. So I really wanted to focus on food that can help heal your gut bacteria, so I can lower my leaky gut and really fix the dysbiosis, and also then balance the insulin levels, and is the most nutrient dense foods for me. And those are tons of vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats. And I know that if I can just stick with those, one, I keep it simple in my brain, that's easy, and I get all my nutrients that I need, plus then I take a bunch of supplements. Just to try to fix those nutrient deficiencies. But that's what I really found, that as soon as, and then magnesium deficiency, you know, I take magnesium, vitamin D, probiotics, fish oil as a bare minimum. And that has been my cocktail for really boosting my energy. And just trying to keep it super simple, because even when I cook for other people, that's what I do. So I'll have a roast, I have tons of vegetables, I have like tons of healthy fats. I'll do a cake made out of almond flour, so then you get cut the healthy fats and the dessert all in one go. I'm kidding. But the thing is, that's what I really focus on, is vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats. And that's what I've done for my patients also.
Excellent. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So have you found that with your patients, that's the same diet that you espouse?
So that's what I do, because for me, so I really work on lowering everybody's overall inflammation, and by focusing then on your digestive health and your detoxification, and the 4S is stress, sleep, social, and spiritual health. And I have all of my patients start off with gratitude every single day, no matter what. Like, we need to subconsciously change our mind to be, instead of being negative, to thinking positive. And I've been doing that over the last 14 years. And it's like the most powerful thing I think I can do with my patients, because they can be on the best diet, they can be on all of these other things, but if they're like, nothing's getting better, this sucks, guess what? It's not going to get better. And I tell them that if you're not right up here, then the rest of it's not going to get better. Right. And so I have them focus on 10 things that they're grateful for every single day. I've done that with my family, and that's what I think, specifically living with a multi-generational family, that's what's helped me thrive in this, because it's really about focusing on all the things that are going right in your lives, and that's not what's going wrong in your life.
Right.
And then the spiritual, then focusing on the sleep, the stress management. Stress leads to 80% of the complaints that come to primary care physicians. I mean, educating them about stress management, and then the digestive health, exactly. So lots of vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, and then really going no grain, no dairy, no sugar, no processed foods is what I've done over the last 11 years with a great success rate. Everybody just keeps on getting better, so I just keep on doing it. And then we have then your bone broths, and then sauerkrauts and all things to help heal your gut bacteria and add some good beneficial microbugs to your gut. And then focus on detoxification. So that's where I basically where I start off with people. And then obviously if they're still having problems, then you go into the zebras, right? The chronic infections, and then the mold, and then the toxins, and then all of those other zebras. But I found that 90% of my patients improve just with these simple basics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's super powerful. And that's why I'm like, wait, that was easy. That I didn't have to do, and then fixing deficiencies, obviously. And I found that I'm like, okay, that was super simple. It's just super, why are we making things super complicated?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really want to educate families, that it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be something that you can start today, even despite your crazy busy. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, I'm the guy who sees those 10%, right? They've done all
Yes,
that stuff,
exactly. So you
right? Right, and then they're still not better,
exactly,
right? Yeah. That's
absolutely. And that's what I've seen. I find a lot of, at least this is where you start people off, and then
yes.
you can start to go, more specialized.
Yeah, that's so important, and diet cannot be overestimated.
Absolutely. And then we think as specifically as moms, unfortunately, we put ourselves last. And I know culturally, specifically, I've been taught that.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I initially started on this journey, specifically, I was born and raised, even though I was born and raised in the USA, my parents were from Pakistan, and everybody around you is from Pakistan. They're like, oh no, we gave up your dream. We gave up our dreams for our children, and now you need to give up your dreams for your children.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where it's always been that in my, I know specifically in the Pakistani Indo-Pak community specifically, we sacrifice, our purpose in life is just for our children, and we have to sacrifice everything for our children. And I was like, that didn't make no sense to me because I got hopes and dreams. And that's why I tell my kids, I'm like, you got to clean up for yourself, because mama's not meant for the kitchen. Mama's meant to change the world. So we got to
Right.
work together. I can't change the world if I'm stuck doing your work. So that's what I've done. I've sort of made that, I've put myself as a priority, because I realized when I was falling apart in shingles, how am I helping my child?
Mm-hmm.
If I make time now for, like, in the morning, I already woke up, I had my 20 minutes of sunshine. I took a walk. I took a run in the morning. I took like a 2-mile run. And then I took my Epsom salt bath. And then I did my meditation. So I already did all of that before the kids got up. And now I'm like able to like take charge of the world. And then when they got up, then they helped me with the kitchen and the cleaning and all of that stuff. So now I'm done. So if we work together and you prioritize yourself, it just makes everything in the family work so much better. And it helps your sanity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I felt like I was doing, is specifically as a mother, I was putting myself way at the bottom of the list. And I needed to now say, no, I am the most important person in this family. Because I realized my husband's like, I need food. I was like, okay, if I'm not feeling well, then because he doesn't enter. He handles like the finances, and he handles everything, like taking out the trash, I'll handle it. As long as I don't have to touch the trash. So that's where I'm like, I'm the most important person in the family. I got to take care of this. And we're all part of it. We all need to think that we're all important. We all have to start taking care of ourselves. Fathers, mothers, any caregivers need to take care of themselves first. Right. Because if they don't take care of themselves, they role model those bad behavior to their children.
Yeah. So in essence, moms have to take care of themselves in order to make sure that their daughters will take care of themselves and their kids.
Absolutely.
The other kids too.
Yeah. Well, I got 4 boys, so yep. Yeah. We gotta make sure the boys take care of themselves and the kids take care of themselves, because if they see, and we got to stop the cycle. And I think this has been going on for so long, that mothers and fathers and caregivers have put themselves on the back burner. And we have to now, and specifically, okay, we have to say this: the doctors are the worst patients. So if you're a doctor, my husband, I don't remember the last time he went to a physical. Like, we need to start. So it's not just mothers; it's also fathers.
Right.
And if you're a physician, forget that. Then you're never taking care of yourself. But we need to now put the spotlight on. We have to start taking care of ourselves as caregivers, because otherwise we're going to get tired, we're going to get cranky, and it's not going to help anybody. And then the kids see those same behaviors, and then just continues going that way.
Right. Well, and the easy route is just to do what our parents did. I grew up very much in the same way. My mom used to say, love is service so great that self is forgotten. And I'm like,
Wow.
WTF? Now I know better. At the time I was like, oh, mom loves me so much that she's like forgetting about herself. And I was like, oh, that seems very sweet. But now it's like, yeah, so how do we teach moms how to start that process? Because a lot of them, it's probably not, it's going to take a pretty radical shift. And like, I know in my family, like, so I grew up with a pretty conventional relationship dynamic between my father and my mother, where she was taking care of the
Mhm,
home and he was working. And
mhm.
so I kind of brought that with me into my current relationship. And my wife's like, you're not holding the mental load that the woman has to handle. So the question is, how do you empower women so that they can have these conversations with their partners, with their kids, kind of much in the way that you have, so that they can get their needs met?
Absolutely. And so I find that it all starts with, you know, I loved what Dr. Perlmutter talked about in his new book, Brainwash. And he talks about how we have our decision making is there's two main pieces of our decision making. It's the amygdala and our prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is responsible for your, rational decision making. And while the amygdala, you're like fight and flight, just like, oh my gosh. And I really feel that a lot of us mothers, because we've taken the back burners, we're not being mindful anymore because we're constantly thinking about what the next thing we need to do. Oh my gosh, like you're sleeping, you're making lists. What do I need to do? And now, specifically with this quarantine and everything that's going on right now we're even wearing even more hats because now I got 4 kids at home. I got to make sure I'm like music teacher, now art teacher, like all of that on top of everything else that I'm doing. And now you're like, okay, now you're going to ask me to be healthy. Forget that. Are you freaking kidding me? I don't even have time like to even breathe. And so, but all of these things that we have brought, like just not being mindful, constantly our mind is on the go, and all of the things that we're trying to juggle at once. And then on top of that, we're not sleeping because I mean, as a mom, I've been there. And I don't want to just go to sleep when the kids go to sleep because I feel like my day just starts all over again with the kids. So then I'm up like, so then before I was up, I'm like, oh my God, gotta watch at least 2 hours of television so then I can just relax. And so we do this to ourselves thinking that it's what we need. Then we're not sleeping, and then we're not eating well, because you're like, oh, moms just get the last like we pick up all the the scraps that everybody's eating and shove into our mouths. But all of that is like cutting off the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. And
Mm.
now we're making these irrational decision making, and we're always stressed, and we're just not functioning to our very best capability. So this is where adding in all of this at once to a mom that's already overwhelmed is exhausting. And so what I do with specifically moms and anybody that's overworked and it's too exhausting to even think about change, because that can be really overwhelming and it can be really scary to change now your entire life, the way that you did life. But I
Mhm.
have to start off with one thing, and that's gratitude.
Mhm.
If we can start with gratitude, that in of itself, if we can just say 10 things that we're thankful for every single morning, that can help empower the mom to make better decisions later on. Because I do feel it's like, oh, screw this, my day's never going to get better. And then you make one bad decision after another bad decision. But if you say, oh my gosh, there's so much here to be thankful for. I'm so thankful for the health of me, my family, the house, that's roof over my head, shoes on our feet. Now you woke up with like positivity and ready to rule the world because you're like, there's so much good out there and I just need to take care of myself because I'm worth it. And
Right.
I think that that's where the gratitude, that's where I have everybody start off with, is immediately when they wake up in the morning, say 10 things that they're thankful for, because studies have even shown that, just by being more grateful, you can lower inflammatory markers, you can turn genes on and off, you can lower the stress that somebody already has. And on top of that, when they've done studies where they checked heart rate variability, when you live a life of frustration, your heart rate variability is all over the place. But when you live a life of appreciation, your heart rate variability is a nice sine wave. So
Mm.
just everything works so much better when a mom is not frustrated. And especially when you're handling it's very easy to fall down the frustration rabbit hole. and then never get out of it, and then start feeling sorry for ourselves and then start eating junk, and then it just continues. We're on that continuous cycle. So to really start that day with gratitude, I feel is the most powerful thing that we can do.
I love that. Yeah, I have people go through and create their own daily mindset practice, and the first part of that is gratitude. And so if the, that is
Oh,
I
I
could
love
definitely
it.
see that as being a huge takeaway from this. If you guys didn't get anything from this podcast episode, it's about gratitude and implementing gratitude in your life. It changes your physiology, it changes your brain, it
Absolutely.
changes the neuroplasticity, it changes so many of these things. It's so important.
Absolutely. And when you start making one change, now you've started to build that connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So now you're better at making other changes and decisions. So it's really powerful. It's a great place to start. Specifically, if you're already overwhelmed and you don't know where else to start, and everything else seems like it's too complicated. This is free, easy. All you just got to do is say it. You don't even have to write it down. If writing it down is too complicated, just start with saying it, just thinking it. And I even have my moms and everybody put little sticky notes all over the house sometimes, specifically if it's too overwhelming. And that way you're creating a zone of subliminal positivity. And that will just, because all those sticky notes will then zap, that all this, this positive. Sometimes when we, especially if a mom is dealing with a lot of chronic health conditions now on top of that, it's really easy to just dive into that rabbit hole of negativity. Oh, I'm not feeling well, just trying to get by. But when you have all these sticky notes all over, it creates a zone of subliminal positivity that can help you focus that on and changes your subconscious from, instead of immediately thinking negative, to thinking positive. So that's another tip that I've done with my moms and my parents.
I love it. So then what's the next step in stress management after that? So they've got their gratitudes on board, they're doing 10 every day, they're starting to feel the difference. What's the next step?
Then it's a stress management, right? And that one, we have sleep, but specifically just incorporating in my house, we have, I try to do that one meditation in the morning time before the kids get up. If I can't get that done, then at their lunch hour, do they have like now, it's like an hour. Sometimes actually my kindergartner has like an hour and a half lunch hour. I'm like, what am I going to do with you for an hour and a half? And so I give them half an hour. So I call it like my meals and meditation. For half an hour, it's like we do lunch. And then the rest of the time, I've now incorporated this into their daily routine, is that they know that half an hour is meant for lunchtime. And then the other half an hour is meant specifically for meditation. Wow. And that's where all of us will do meditation together. And actually during this quarantine time, we did Emily Fletcher's course on meditation and mindfulness. And all of them have started this and they love it. So they're like, oh, Mama, it's meditation time. And now that forces me also to stay on top of it. And now I'm also teaching them a good positive behavior that will then not only help them now, but in the long run. And I'm getting my own, it's forcing me to do my own meditation, because right. We get, as moms, we can get really busy unless we sort of integrate it into our daily routine. And that's where I found that was the most powerful thing for me to do, is now integrate it into the kids' daily routine. And now they're sort of getting me to do it. They're like, because they feel such an amazing difference on it. And so we're like, oh, we got to do our meditations. So we start with the deep breaths, and then the mindfulness, and then we go into the mantra meditation. We end with manifesting. And then they're like, then they're telling me all the ideas that they have and all the dreams that they want to accomplish. And then it becomes like this, it's a really fun conversation every time they're manifesting something different. Mm-hmm. So again, that's something that I've started doing as in my own routine that has been so beneficial, specifically when this quarantine and stuff started. And now I'm home more, and my routines of going to the gym and dropping the kids off and then doing this and then having a couple hours of just doing work has been disrupted. So at least we can use these school schedule days to add in those times of meditation. So that's the next step that I do. And it's so powerful, because remember, stress leads to 80% of the complaints that come to primary care physicians. Right. And it weakens your gut bacteria, it destroys your immune system, it leads to insulin and prediabetes, that all causes fatigue. So no matter if you're trying to heal your gut bacteria, dealing with all these chronic infections, but if you're not dealing with the stress, forget it. So that incorporating that into your daily routine is really important next step,
I definitely agree.
right? And it's so easy. And then, yeah, no.
Well, I was going to say, I think what would be really helpful at this point is to hear about how you run your day. Because I'm thinking about, okay, so she's got this lunchtime with the kids, she's doing lunch, she's doing, so if you can, and you already started with, if you can tell us kind of like what time you wake up and take us through your day, and then what time you go to bed,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. I think that could be really helpful for folks.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I found. And that's what I did with my Adam's Healing Adventures. And I call it primary care on this. We call it our healing routine. And that's what I've done to make things super easy, because routines work, and studies have shown that they just work, and it takes off the stress of it. And obviously I'm not 100% all the time because it's the real life, but I'm trying to stick with it 80% of the time. And so in the morning time, I mean, my husband leaves in the morning at 7 o'clock. So he's up at 6 o'clock. And so at 6 o'clock, my day begins. And then so after get him off, so the kids wake up by 8. So I have that 1 hour to myself right now specifically. And because they're home, they wake up at 8, the school starts at 9. Before they were wake up a little bit earlier because I actually had to get them to school. So, but I have that 1 hour. In that 1 hour is rarely where I go for a run. I can do my 20 minutes when you go for a run, now you get your 20 minutes of sunlight all at the same time also. And then then I come back and do my meditations. I drink my water, right? Sitting outside, doing my meditation. And then now you have the triple top of the kids coming downstairs. So here I've already exercised. I've already done my meditation. I got my exercise in. And then on top of that, drinking my water, try to get my lemon water first thing in the morning. I'm all on fasting. And then the kids come in, and that's when they help me with that's when we get some of the chores done in the morning time. So I try to get all of my chores done before their school starts. So that gives me 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. All the chores are done, and the kids know that's the time they'll quickly have some breakfast. But then they know that my 9-year-old will come and start taking the dishes out. So it's created a routine. My 5-year-old will get the vacuum. My 7-year-old will start cleaning and picking things up. So then as the 5-year-old is vacuuming, so things like that. So and that's when I'll get my cooking done. So I'll just throw stuff in the Instapot or get stuff out that I need to defrost for dinner, whatever it needs to be done. But I try to get it all done at 9 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, the kids are starting to school, and guess what? I'm done. And we all just work together to make sure that it was all done. Now the rest of the day, once I can get that baggage out, because that's stuff that needs to be done, that is just, otherwise it just gets stuck, and then you can't get anything else done. It's really difficult. So once I get all that done, shows the kids about chores, then the rest of the day I have to really do my work, to take my Epsom salt baths. And then also I see clinic patients. So that's when I do a lot of online patients right now. And then at lunchtime is when remember, because my kids only eat their vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats. So a lot of times what happens is, because I did already the cooking in the morning time, the kids can now come in and they'll be like, oh, I want this. I'll quickly warm it up. We'll sit them down, vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats. Yesterday I made meatballs, but the meatballs had onions, cauliflower, broccoli sprouts, olives, and onions all in the meatball. And that's what the kids had, some sauerkraut and sweet potato, and then a handful of and then apples at the end, right? And so that's what they would have with some either avocados, whatever. So in their mind, they go vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, vegetable, clean protein, healthy fats. And so we're always stocked for success, which makes things so much easier. And then the rest of the half an hour, we'll go ahead and do the meditation. So now before 12 o'clock, I've already gotten these, basic things done. And then by the end of the day, when they're done, we try to get outside actually at that time, because I want them to run around, specifically when there's no gym. We have a yard outside that we'll garden together. We'll spend another couple hours outside. And then they do have a half an hour to an hour of screen time. They don't have any iPads, or anything like that. So they will watch some like a movie or whatever they want to do for like an hour. And then it's again chores, cleaning up, running around. We'll play a game together. And then they have their sleep routine, which is like Epsom salt baths, meditation, prayer, gratitude, helping me clean up. And actually right before they have their own dry brush, they do the cold, they love the cold showers now. We learned all about cold showers and helps your body detox. So they're like jumping up and down in there. It's fun. And so and then they go to sleep and then the day starts over again. So I try to incorporate all of these main pieces, your digestive health and detoxification on a daily basis. And then your stress, sleep, social, spiritual health, making sure they help me with the chores. So then I can lift all of that burden off of my shoulders and help them raise leaders. And then I started, for me specifically, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with them afterwards? And then just a couple times a week, I know you were an amazing guest on our show. So we started the Holistic Kids show, the Holistic Kids podcast. And so that was another thing that we started doing together as a family. After we go outside, we'll talk about it. And these are the conversations that I normally have in my house. I know I'm a geek, but like I have these conversations. I'm like, oh, look, you guys, we're going to do Brussels sprouts today. Do you guys know the benefits of Brussels sprouts? We're going to do this. And so I'm always talking to them about the benefits of these foods. And then, and so my kids at the age of, 5, Mama, oh no, that food is not good for our microbiome. And so I think that we've sort of lived our lives and I've taught them that every decision that you make, every decision can either help you or hurt you. So do you want to make a decision that's going to help you, or do you want to make a decision that can hurt you? Mm-hmm. So because we've had these conversations and every part of the day, there's a purpose for it and there has an underlying reason of why we're doing it, it really empowers these kids. And that's when I'm able to, it makes life so much easier for me, because now they're sort of in that routine. And then now we're sort of, accountability partners for each other. And that's what's so much fun. And they understand, they're like, oh, we got to go clean up, Mama, because Mama has to go finish her podcast, or Mama has to go finish her book. So we're going to do this. So then we've sort of become healthier together as a family.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant.
That's what we've done here.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that, and so the question that comes up for me is, my 12-year-old would not be willing to do this right now. And so how long did it take you to, I mean, this is just who you are, but it seems like you modeling this and you talking about these things, that implementing some of these things were kind of a natural extension. But I guess, did you get pushback from them initially? And then how do you deal with that in order to affect change?
Oh, absolutely. You get pushed back. They're kids, right? they're going to Mom. And then I talk to them. Actually, for me, in my house, we have like one big rule, and you only treat somebody the way you want to be treated. So if you're going to be mean to me and we're not going to work together as a family, then I can't help you, right? Because if you're not going to be here to help me, then I shouldn't be helping you. And they learned that eventually when they're like, oh, but we're not helping Mama, but we need food. Okay, Mama's not cooking. So we realized that I taught them actually that very early on, that we treat somebody the way you want to be treated. So we're all part of a family. And so if we're do this together as a family, it's not my job just to sit here in the kitchen and look after you guys all day long. We have to work together. And for me, there's 8 people in my house that I take care of on a daily basis. So I sort of am like, you guys need to help me. And it's really fun because you can start, if you have logical conversations with them, they understand. And I have really deep conversations with my kids, like on a daily basis, like really deep. Like, if I was stuck in the kitchen all day long, doing this all day long for you, would a Mama be able to help anybody else? They're like, no. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do you want me just to do this and not help anybody else? And just even my 5-year-old will understand that at that point. Even though like, no, I don't want to do the dishes. At the beginning, it was hard. But I realized that if I can be strict with them at a younger age, when they get older, I can just pray with, because at that, I won't be able to do anything strict with them per se, as they get past that age. But now they're 7, and I can be like, okay, this needs to be done because Mama needs her help. And when you need help, Mama's here for you. When Mama needs help, and to be open with them that I'm not a superwoman. I can't handle everything on my own. I can't just juggle. And I think that was another thing that I had to break, because I think we're like, oh, moms are superwoman, they can just handle everything. I know my husband will be like, oh, you can handle it all. I'm like, no, I can't. I could still break down. I still need help. And so really getting everybody involved. And I really thought that just educating them and starting with these key pieces, because I'm like, I'm trying to create leaders for the next generation, for the next world. And so for a future generation. So I need to make sure that they have those, like rituals every day to create those leaders. And I know me and you read books on leadership all the time, right? This is what creates a leader. This is how you're going to get out there. And then I'm trying to then implement it with these kids, but then educating them. And I found that if you can educate them and not just tell them what to do all the time and then role model that behavior, it slowly opened the door. And I know that, for me, like the food piece was huge. And I really feel that, because once I was able to, because my kids, they're 100% non-GMO, 90% organic, they even if they have like a candy, they will not even eat it. If I'm not even there, they'll be like, no, mama, that's just artificial. Why would I put that chemical in my body? And so either you can brainwash kids one way, you can brainwash kids the other way. So what I've done is not really brainwashed per se. It's basically really educating them about they know exactly what happens when that Kit Kat enters your mouth, when it goes into your digestion, we're nerd parents, right? So they do. My husband's a physician. I'm a physician. Their father, they're my grandfather, their grandfather's a physician. All their aunts and uncles are physicians. So they know exactly what happens. My sister, she's a pediatric ICU physician. She came in and she gave everybody, just yesterday, she gave everybody a detoured talk about all the parts of your liver and all of the parts of your intestines. And the kids are like, oh, yeah, this. So I guess we've incorporated this. Education was key. And to start with small steps, educating them slowly about, the impact of sugar on your body. Just talk about it. Show them books on it. Show them a documentary on it. And then the next time they'll think better. And then just slowly make those small little changes to go. And that's what I've done in my house. It did take time. My oldest is now 13 and I started this 11 years ago. So, but I wasn't 100% off the bat. Like I was just completely 100% gluten-free only 5 years ago. Before that, I was like, on and off. And then paleo just 4 years ago, completely just because I felt like my body. So it's been a struggle, but then as I've learned more about it, my family's learned more about it, and I've educated them. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've done in my house, is really just using education and love, and I make everything fun. I'm the type of mom that gets on the ground and then just like plays with them. I'm like, we could totally do this. Let's do this together. We'll dance and we'll sing and we'll just have lots of fun with it. But then when it comes time to discipline, I'm like, okay, you know what? You treat me the way you want to be treated. So either you're nice to me, otherwise, guess what? You can sit in the garage for a little bit and think about what you've done. Nice. And that's what, so it's all about, creating that balance, but really educating the children really as best as you possible. And even if you have teenagers that are not going to change, education is power. And that's what I've done with all of the patients that I've seen.
So then for the moms who don't have that education, they don't have a family of docs, do you have education available on your site? What do you recommend for people? You talked about, watching a documentary. Do you have a list somewhere? How do you recommend that people get educated?
Well, so that's actually why I wrote the books that I've written. And so the first book was called The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease. And it's the best of functional, integrative, holistic medicine, all covering over 70 conditions for all ages. And so for me as a mom and then as a family physician, right, we see patients of every dynamic, people with like, eye problems, the digestive issues. And so that's where I'm like, I needed to start somewhere for moms. So that's why I put this together for my own patients, just for my patients, like a resource with everything that I use in it. And then I got it published into a book with a traditional publisher. And then I'm like, oh my God, we have to start doing this with the kids. And that's what the children's book came about. And that's what I've done with the children's book, is really go into, okay, somebody's not feeling well. And then, oh my gosh, here's about gut health, and then bone broth and why we do that. And then how eating the rainbow. And then, so I've taken everything that I've done, and I've created a routine here. So all that routine that we just talked about, I basically, whatever I did with my kids, I was able to then translate into a book and have Adam's friends talk about those different pieces, to the point of even going outside and grounding, and making sure that we're, taking your Epsom salt baths and doing your meditations, and then, parenting, and then what you're going to do without that. So this is how I've helped to teach my own children. And that's why I wanted to create this resource. And right now I'm working on actually the next one in its series. So that was hopefully be about rainbow foods. But that's what I'm going to hopefully do, is so stay tuned for this entire series of Adam's Healing Adventures. And then I've given people, specifically at the back of this, a little checklist of what they can do. And that's what, like, just simple things like get up every morning and say 10 things that you're thankful for. This is something the parents and the moms can do with their own children. And then eat the rainbow, drink your water, use natural projects, Epsom salt baths and sweating detox, different ways they could detox. And then we have to incorporate meditation, prayer, play outdoors, make sure you sleep well, surround yourself with love and positivity. I mean, these are just simple things that are super powerful, that if we can just start incorporate as moms and as children, it can create a really big difference in your entire family dynamic. And that's what I've noticed in my own house, is now I can talk to my kids as normal adults and children, and where there's no temper tantrums anymore. If I'm busy with meetings all day long, they're able to find food themselves. And I know they're eating, because I have to be realistic. I'm sometimes in meetings all day long. And now it's all online, but they'll be able to go, because my house is stocked for success. So now they're able to make those decisions, vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, and it gives moms peace of mind. Plus, on top of that, I'm not always in the kitchen,
Right.
And so it really does. There's a lot of benefit for starting these simple lifestyle tips, because one, you can cook less, like you can have more sanity. Your kids will be able to, be little, they won't be little monsters, they'll be little human beings. And you'll be healthier together as a family. And just start with those one step, just start with educating. And I have all these tools, even on my website. I do have a healing bundle that I have with 25 of my recipes, what a healing day looks like, what a healing week looks like, and a shopping list guide. So that's all what I do in my house. So then I just translated it over and created a package and opted on my website called the Healing Bundle.
I love it. And so what is your website?
So it's called the holisticmommd.com.
Awesome. Okay, great.
So fun. And then we have, Yeah,
we'll put the link below, and then the books are also, you'll give me the links and we'll put those below as well.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of fun, because my mind keeps on going. This is literally what I eat and dream and, live. And I'm trying to just think how can I really take what I've learned with my family, and if I can do it, anybody can. And how can I do this, take this message to the world and create these easy, fast, cost-effective lifestyle tips to really integrate them into the family structure. And so I put together the first family health expo in the United States. It'll be next year now. I rented out a 13,000 square foot ballroom. I know. And it was all set. Deanna Minich was gonna speak, Katie Kimball, like all these amazing people that were ready to speak, and to really educate and empower families. So I have lots of fun stuff on my social media. I actually post what my days look like, what I'm able to feed somebody, because I think that we overcomplicate things, and it doesn't have to be complicated. The kids can just eat, some meatballs and some salad and just some, just super applesauce, and they'll be good. And it's like an avocado. I think we make things really complicated, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be. And that's what I've tried to do. And then, when I have a family of 20 people coming this weekend, and I'll be cooking, I'm the one that's going to be cooking the entire weekend, and just again keeping it super simple. And so I have lots of great things. That's all can be found on my social media. Lots of fun things coming up. Yay!
I love that. And I think that, what you're talking about really are baby steps. Like,
Baby steps.
people aren't gonna implement all this stuff at once. It's like you
Nope.
implement one thing
One thing.
every couple of weeks, and that it accumulates,
It
over
accumulates.
time.
And I think that's when the anxiety happens, is when we think that
Hmm.
we have to add everything all at once and then we don't do any of it. And it's taken me, 11 years to get to where I am. It doesn't
Right.
happen overnight. I know it's taken you years. So
Hmm.
like, this is something that if we can do it, anybody can do it. And we also started with those baby steps. And so, because you're right, all of those baby steps accumulate over time, but each one of those baby steps is super powerful. So don't underestimate those baby steps. Those baby steps are super powerful to get you to even the next step. So it's so empowering. Yay!
I think it's important for folks to remember that, it takes 3 days to break a habit and
Mhm,
21 days to make a habit. So
mhm.
it's just that consistency of every single day, just doing it and getting creative and having fun with it, so that you can incorporate it into your life. I think another important point too is that if you're having a hard time as a mom, as a parent, incorporating this stuff into your life right now or taking care of yourself, do it for your kids.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a lot easier sometimes for us to do things for our children than it is for us to do them for ourselves, but it'll rub off.
I know, absolutely. It will. And that's actually what I did, because at the beginning I thought this gratitude stuff was difficult. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So we started making it into a song. So every
Hmm.
day, like, so in the morning as the kids wake up, we're like, thank you for our eyes, thank you for our ears, thank you for another beautiful day to change the world. And my voice is not, you are an
Love it.
amazing singer. But so I'll break some windows as I do it. But the but what's exciting is that the kids, they don't care. They're just like, so then they'll one, we started really young, and one of them will be like, oh, I'm thankful for my belly button, haha. And the other one will be like, oh, I'm thankful for my poop. So we sort of turned it into
Right.
a game, because the
Hmm.
kids would really be excited to incorporate into their daily routine. And that's what I found, that okay, I'm able to really incorporate this a little bit easier once I can make it fun and exciting, and then get the kids and do it for our kids, right? Because I was like, oh, if I can't do it, how am I going to get them to do it? And I don't want negative teenagers. I don't want to deal with that. So, and that too, four boys, and I don't know. So that's where incorporating it with your family, doing it for your family, is super important, and doing it with
Hmm.
your family, because that just
Hmm.
creates a bond that will, it's fun. And my kids still, like, even to this, my 12-year-old, sorry, 13 now, he turned 13 yesterday, 13-year-old, he still is like, Mama, that's so funny, ha! And then we'll do that together, and it's just fun.
Right.
Super
Well,
fun.
I so appreciate you. I appreciate the energy that you bring. I appreciate these practical tips that you've shared today. This was really a great interview that people can go ahead and start implementing. Get your books. I think that everybody needs to have them on their shelves. They need to share them with their children so that you can have these resources to move forward and create the life you really want and create the life you want for your kids. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. My pleasure. And thank you so much for everything that you are doing. We met 3 years ago, and I know that you've been doing such great work out there. And so thank you again for all the work. And yay, we're going to work to like get people energized and healthier, specifically our future generation and our parents. So thank you
Amen.
so much. Yay.
I hope you learned something on today's podcast. If you did, please share it with your friends and family and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's really helpful for getting this information out to more fatigued people who desperately need it. Sharing all the experts I know and love and the powerful tips I have on fatigue is one of my absolute favorite things to do. If you'd like more information, please sign up for my newsletter, where I share all important facts and information about fatigue, from the foods and supplements to the programs and products that I use personally and recommend to others so that they can live their best lives. Just go to fixyourfatigue.com/newsletter to sign up, and I will send you this great information. Thanks for being part of my community. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. It is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help with your fatigue, you can visit my website and work with us at fixyourfatigue.com. And remember, it's important that you have someone in your corner who is a credentialed healthcare professional to help you make changes. This is very important, especially when it comes to your health. Thanks for listening, and have an amazing day.